So this domain of people who have food decision anxiety, if someone is new to dieting or meal planning or just restricting calories, being told exactly what to eat and when helps them feel more secure and eliminates the fear of doing it wrong. Now, this isn't where you should sit forever, but I think it could be a really helpful starting point. Now, others might find the same rigidity overly restrictive, and that takes us to our next avatar. So, the history of overly rigidly dieting, history of over dieting, history of being overly restricted. I don't know, however you want to quantify that in your head. On the flip side, we have individuals who've experienced overly rigid dieting in the past. And because of this, these individuals might feel trapped, resentful while following a strict plan. This is me. Even if food variety and social flexibility is an accepted part of the sacrifice in what you're making. And even though I can like technically do that when I'm still required to do that when I track macros, it's one of those things that like, it's just the notion of like having to be on a meal plan and like having that condition that like, if you go off the meal plan, like you're wrong. It's like, but that's just not true because not all calories are created equally, but some of them can be exchanged pretty equally. And I think my brain does that, what it just did for you guys. And I'm just like, I don't like how this feels. Like it feels inconsistent with what I know to be true. And for this kind of person, what I found for myself and for clients is macro-based dieting could be superior because it does allow for freedom and personalization. Now, I think this is especially true for individuals who enjoy, like they derive creative process and dopamine by getting to choose the foods that they liked, and they like having the adaptability component to their meal design and their lifestyle, making dieting less of a chore and more sustainable. So this is very much the case. Like I like going out to eat. I like dessert. So it's like I like the challenge of having to be in more of like a budgetary mode, because I know like in the acute sense, I'm like, this will be worth it later. And this restriction is very like temporary and it's not that bad. So it's like, this is fine because now the reward of being a little restricted in the moment will result in something a little bit more enjoyable later. I also like the aspect of still being adherent, knowing that like, hey, this is completely in my control. Like this isn't based around if I have groceries on hand or if Jordan ate like, he would never do this. That's so not in his character. But if he like ate a meal that I had prepped or something, or ate the last of, I don't know, the berries. Now we don't berries. Now I have to lose my mind because now I need to make a 30-minute round trip to go to the store, which is not that long, I know. But still, if you're like, hey, I wanted to eat right now and I want the berries, so like now I gotta go to the store to get the berries, like that's insane. This is very specific to someone who's coming from like a very like, I don't know, traumatic dieting past where they ate the same meals for months, and transitioning to macro dieting might help them rediscover an enjoyment in food while still meeting their goals. And even though like even when I was like very dieted down and I worked with coaches who are traditionally very like bro diety and heavy on the rigidity part, I didn't follow a meal plan. Like I was very clear. I ate my macros and I got shredded. But I know a lot of coaches, like they just like traumatize girls because they're like, you need to have 5 grams of almond butter and that's the most you can get. And you need to have 15 grams of it. It's like just next to nothing. And I think back, I think Peak Week, my first show, like they're the little containers that I'm sure like the Tupperware that you're supposed to put like garlic cloves or something, like, but it's tiny. It's like literally that much food. And I remember for one of my meals for my show, like it's not even that I was eating like such a low amount, but I was like, oh, I'll put this in here. It was like oats and like a little bit of honey or something like that. And I was like, I remember I took it out. My girlfriend who was at the show with me, she's like, please don't tell me that's your meal. Like that's like horrendous. This is like just very bothersome to see you eat this way. And I mean, I don't know, point aside, dumb story. I do know a lot of people have that kind of experience where they are just so fucked up from their prior history with food, or maybe they have actually been like anorexic, or they've been very restrictive in the sense where they need to shift the cognitions they have around food. And that, again, was very much me. Not like clinically diagnosed anorexic, but very, very big in like the perma dieting, like overly restricting, like scarcity mindset. And it wasn't until I learned about macros and like being able to track them that I got out of that mindset where I was like, oh, like there's actually opportunity to enjoy food and not just treat it as, this resource that I have to divvy out. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna make that joke. So someone may benefit from the macro dieting if they need that, like, I don't know, reignition of enjoyment towards food while still meeting their goals.